to this voice. You were tuned in to the best kept secret in sports talk. I'm your friendly neighborhood smoking. You are officially on the hot seat. What we do on the hot seat? We set somebody's ass on fire. This week we're going to talk about Florida State. It's kind of like a year-end review. Going to discuss a few things. Talk about a few topics I've been discussing with other people outside of the show, and probably talk a little bit of recruiting. So without any further ado, man, paying homage to the ghosts over my left and my right shoulder. You come for the gospel, and God damn it, I'm here to give it to you. Ding ding, classes in session. So, Florida State ended the season finishing 10-3. Who would have thought that shit? Definitely not myself. Uh, Florida State finished the season 10-3 with a more exciting victory than what it should have been over Oklahoma Sooners in the Cheez It Bowl. Um, Guys, I don't know what to say about this football team sometimes, man. Coming from a guy who expected 6 wins, who predicted 6 wins, ceiling 7 and maybe perfectly 8, to come out and get 10 wins, man, people, that is impressive. Everybody who has a Florida State emblem or who's associated with the goddamn program should take a bow. The coaches, the staff, conditioning coaches, strength coaches, all that shit, the players, even the goddamn cheerleaders, man. Everybody should take a bow because you came out and did what nobody outside of that locker room for the most part thought you could do. And you look damn good doing it. You had your hiccups, but nobody here expected perfection. Definitely not here on my end. Uh, it was. It's fun to be a part of a program with high expectations, because that's exactly what you were looking at next season. High expectation, and it's kind of it's an odd feeling for me because I don't know how they're gonna respond to these expectations. But that's another topic for another day. Um, Going 10-3, you hit a rough patch where you probably weren't as healthy as you would have liked to have been going against the toughest part of your schedule, the meat of the schedule. But hey, you 10-3. I can't say that enough. Can't state that enough. 10-3 is impressive, people, especially for a team who came in with so many question marks. You had so many doubters, myself included. And you had so many question marks about so many different areas of the football team, the coaching staff, offensive and defensive, promoting from within. You're looking at the personnel you were putting out there. You came off a season in which you had just started 0-4, recruiting. You listen, people. That early signing period last year, whew, that was brutal. Based off how you finished and what the expectation was going into the day, a lot of people expecting a few surprises, and you got nothing, and you got gut punched with the Travis Hunter thing. I've talked before about the Jacksonville State loss being the worst loss in program history. I don't think Florida State could have rebounded any better. Um, and it's nice to see growth. It's nice to see maturity. It's nice to see a large level of development. Um, these evals, I think we need to discuss at some point. Hell, we ain't doing that now. The evals this staff has on both sides of the football is impressive, especially when it comes to the transfer portal. They don't miss too often. They go out, they key in on who they want, and they'll get that motherfucker. And usually they put those people, though they put those young men in the best positions to be successful. People, that's impressive. And it's impressive because of how many transfers they've had to take. And sure, other schools have taken more, but I don't think they've taken more with the success rate that Florida State has. Florida State went in the transfer rate. Florida State went in the transfer portal and got the defensive player of the year in the ACC last season. You know, they're getting guys who are going to get drafted. They're getting guys who preseason All American, guys who've made all AC, who have all ACC honors. It's impressive. And you look at the haul that they have this season. Excuse the excitement coming out of my goddamn voice. But to briefly touch on the Oklahoma game, good game, fun to watch. Um, Oklahoma jumped out of the gate early. And y'all let me know in the comments below, was anybody ever worried about this game? Like, even though there were times in which Florida State probably could have went down 18 points, they probably were they? I don't quite remember. But there were points in that game where it could have gotten early. It could have gotten ugly early, and it didn't. But whether it did or whether it didn't, the game was never in doubt to me. Not really excited about the flow of the game and how things went, but I'm gonna tell you something. That offense is about as explosive can get. Think about this. With a little over 6 minutes left in the third quarter, Florida State only had 11 points. They finished with almost 40. Think about that. Think about how fast things can change in the blink of an eye for a Florida State offense now. When was the last time you seen a Florida State offense this explosive? It's been a while. And, it seems as if Oklahoma, to a small degree, kind of had Florida State's number on the defensive side of football as it relates to what they were able to do offensively. Side note, as I'm watching Oklahoma, you know what I couldn't help but think? And you had to be impressed with what Oklahoma did with so little. But I was thinking, watching it the entire time, that is the exact offense that Willie Taggart wanted for Florida State. What could have been. But looking at what they were able to do, the fits they were able to give them, you had to just take a step back and say, hey, listen, they're moving the ball. They won't let you run the ball. You're going to have to put this in Jordan Travis' hands. And the best part about what I saw that Thursday night was this. That game Thursday afternoon. The best part I saw was this. Last time we saw Jordan Travis prior to the Oklahoma Sooner game, we saw him running amok on Florida. And I had been telling y'all for a while, I want to see Jordan Travis put the team on his back, and I want to see him win. I want to see him take the team over the finish line. He did that. He did it with his legs for the most part. This time you saw him do it with his arm. The progression that young man has had this season is remarkable. And I can't overstate it. I don't think anybody can overstate it enough. In most cases, when you get to this juncture of a career in college football, either your ass got it or you don't have it. Player at any position, especially quarterback, they usually don't get this exponentially better. So hats off to the kid. Like his brother, I said this is the last show. You'd be a fan later. I'm a fan much later, but goddamn it, scoot your ass over. There's room for me on that bandwagon. I'm a fan. He is clearly one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country. He's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country right now, present moment. And he should be somebody mentioned when you're talking about Heisman Trophy next season. The kid has put in the work. He's shown that he doesn't really even turn the ball over that much, man. And you look at the litany of weapons he's going to have at his disposal next year, people. I just wish I could go to bed tonight and wake up tomorrow and the season starts. It's going to be weapons everywhere. This offense should be better next season than it is this season. Think about that. They were beating teams by 30-some-odd points this season. This offense, because think about it. You look at what you're losing and what you're replacing it with. So you mean to tell me nobody here is excited about Johnny Wilson, Michael Pittman, and Winston Wright? Cam McDonald's gone, and I actually like Cam, but he drops too many goddamn football, and at the most, he's an average blocker. Probably below average by some people's standards, but he's probably an average blocker. You're replacing him with a Swiss Army knife of a tight end and Jaheim Bell, and that monster of a tight end. They got the 6'7" kid. They got Murlock. And I love tight ends. I love tight ends in college football, not necessarily in the pros, but I love them in college football because when you have a really good tight end, the defense is pretty much at your mercy because if you know college football, you know that defenses don't plan for tight ends. They do not scheme for them. They aren't part of the goddamn report. That they don't give a shit about tight ends unless it's a Brock Bowers or a Mayer from Notre Dame. But in most cases, they don't plan for them. But if you have a good tight end, there are so many things that you can do with your offense, and it opens up so much. Right now, it's a pick your poison. How are you going to stop a Florida State offense next season? How? That offensive line is going to be much better. Offensive line was good this season. I expect it to be really good next season. Since we're talking about offensive line, enjoy Alex Atkins while you can. Yeah. Next year is probably going to be his last season. Hope it isn't. Hope I'm wrong. Please prove me wrong, but don't expect him to be around Tallahassee too much longer, guys. Moving on. I expect the offensive line to be better next season. You got, if not the, you probably have the best running back room in the conference. One of the best running back rooms in the nation. You have in the wide receiver room, you have whatever you want. You have possession receivers, you have slot receivers, you have deep threats, you have guys who can do it all. Whatever you want is in that wide receiver room right now, or it's coming. How you stop Florida? How many offenses, seriously speaking, how many offenses are better, not as good as, but better than Florida State's offense right now? And you got a quarterback who been in this system. Next year will be Jordan Travis's 4th year in this system. Is that right? It'll be his 4th year in this system. He can probably run this system with his eyes closed. This is fine. This is fucking fun. To have these type of expectations is exciting. And the best part about this, outside of drumming your goddamn opponents to death, is recruits are going to see it. Right? Playmakers all across the goddamn country who are going to be able to see this. Who are going to be able to see this team put up 40 and 50 points regularly, week in and week out. It's going to be great. Back to the game itself. Like I said, you saw Jordan Travis win that game with his arm. Put up video game numbers. You want to know what I like about this? Don't make this shit hard. Throw it to the guy who's getting covered by somebody. Throw it to the guy who's 6'7", being covered by somebody who's 5'11". Keep throwing it to him. He dropped one. Who gives a shit? He's going to drop one every goddamn game. Keep throwing to him. You're making it simple. I love that. And once Mike realized that they were not going to allow Florida State to run the goddamn ball, put it in Travis' hands. Go get him, kid. Once he realized that Benson wasn't the hot guy, Ward, go get him, kid. You're making adjustments on the fly. You're putting guys. You're not waiting to do it, right? You want to sit and play chess? Great, your move. Stop this. It is not even pick your poise as it relates to you want us to run or throw. It's about who you want us to throw to, who you want us to run with. You stop this guy running, can you stop this guy? You stop this guy from pass catching, can you stop these guys? People, hats off to Mike Norvell and the transformation he's had with this offense. You can't say enough about it. It is uber impressive. I told y'all I should do a show about all the shit I was wrong about before the season started, and a lot of it was Mike Norvell-ish. A lot of it had Mike Norvell's handprints on it. His play calling, the sequence in which he called plays, the personnel in which he used when calling plays. I questioned all that shit. The transfers he brought in. I questioned the Benson shit. I remember seeing Johnny Wilson's highlight tape, and half of it had blocking in it. And I said, you got to be fucking shitting me. And nobody on the face of the planet likes a wide receiver with a large catch radius more than myself. The Julio Joneses, the Randy Mosses of the world, whoever you can name, Calvin Johnson. I love those guys because they can make average quarterbacks look really good because you just throw it in their vicinity and they'll go get it. So when I see 6'7", I'm intrigued. I saw his highlight tape and I wasn't intrigued. And then he has a problem holding on to the damn football. He can't catch that well. I must have threw my phone halfway across the goddamn room. So you ain't got a guy whose highlight tape has half blocking and the other part of the story is he can't catch? Wrong. I mean, he doesn't catch all that well. But still, how many wins out of the 10, how many wins do you think Florida State has if they have no Johnny Wilson? The case has been rested. As I like to say, the pudding has proof in it. I was wrong about a lot. You lost who you presume to be, or who a lot of us presume to be your starting center in Caden Lyles. You lost who a lot of us presume to be the best wide receiver in the room. You lost both of them for the whole year. They did not play. and you did not bat an eye. Nothing stopped. You didn't blink. You kept pushing forward. Hats off. How good do y'all think this offense would have been, and how many more wins do you think this offense would have had they been more consistent just catching the ball? How better do you think Jordan Travis' numbers would have been had he didn't have as many drops as he did? You can argue the NC State game goes differently if they don't drop as many passes. He's been hindered. The team has been hindered by drops, and they still managed to go out and produce the number of points they did per game. They still went out and produced 10 wins for a team that just lost 7 games last season. It's impressive, people. It's impressive. It's impressive. It's impressive. Here's the sad part of the show. I talked to y'all about the offense. I gotta talk to you about the defense. This is really the meat and the potatoes of the show. I've been asked here a lot since Thursday what to do about the defense. And I'm going to break this down for you the best way I can. I have an unbiased opinion. Y'all know how I feel about Adam Fuller, but I've had to be honest for the most part this season. He's done nothing that deserves for him to be terminated, fired, or moved on from. All right? That said, you can tell by what Florida State is doing in relation to retaining players, and you can tell by what Florida State is doing to go out and get players that they are selling out for next season. 10 wins will not be the expectation next season. We're talking, because I told y'all last show, it's time to beat Clemson. It's time to get to some playoffs, all that shit. I don't know when it goes to 12. I don't know if it's next season or the season after. Y'all let me know in the comments. But it's time, even if it is just 4 teams next year, it's time to be in that discussion. And I mean talking about making it hard to keep Florida State out. We're approaching that time, so they're ahead of schedule as it relates to what the rebuild is. But we're here now. And I told y'all a lot this season. Expectations change. And I asked you all in the last show, how confident are you in Adam Fuller leading this team to the promised land, being a vital cog in what's going to give Florida State back to prominence? So the numbers suggest that there's no compensation. The numbers suggest that he's done his job at a high level. That's fair. Jay-Z said every day, men lie, women lie. Numbers don't lie. That's fair. What I also know is numbers don't tell you the entire story either. He has put together a defense that was decent and it was good in spots. What I did take notice to this season is Florida State played about 5 or 6 quarterbacks that you would deem above, either decent or above average. Played about 5 of them, I think. Not counting the kid from Syracuse because he was banged the fuck up when Florida State came to town. So I'm not gonna include him. But you look at Jaden Daniels, and you look at his numbers. His numbers weren't mind-boggling, but look at what he was able to do down in New Orleans. 209 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He had 16 rushing attempts for 114 yards. It makes you scratch your head. Like I told y'all I was there at the game. Not gonna go and all that other stuff. That was a great atmosphere, man. I can't wait to see y'all in Orlando next season. But I remember watching the game, thinking to myself, why hasn't he adjusted? Right. So moving on from that game, you look at Wake Forest. Sam Hartman came to town. What would he? 234 yards, 2 touchdowns. Could not get off the field on 3rd down for nothing. Man, it seemed like they converted on every fucking 3rd down, or they made every crucial play offensively that they needed to make, right? You go on from him and DJ Uiagalelei. I know that's not how you pronounce his name, but who the hell gonna correct me about fucking up a Clemson player's last name, right? So today and forever, your name is DJ Uiagalelei. He didn't have eye-poppy numbers, but for the most part, he took care of business. I think he had like 200 yards passing, a little over 200 yards passing. He had 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, right? Every time they needed to convert, they converted. Every time they needed a big play, he was able to make it, whether it was with his arm or whether it was with his legs, right? He didn't fall off the cliff until after he played Florida State. From there, you got Anthony Richardson. Here's the thing about Anthony Richardson in Florida: they had no receivers. They had no receivers. He completed, I think, 9 passes for a little under 2 yards, but he kept throwing to the same goddamn wide receiver, and the same goddamn wide receiver kept eating Florida State alive, and I couldn't understand it for the life of me. I'm saying this shit real time while I'm watching the game. How the hell does this keep happening? And it wasn't even their best receiver. Of if the receiving core was healthy, Pearsall, or however you say his name, he's probably their third or fourth best receiver. He ate Florida State up. I couldn't understand it for the life of me. Move on him, past him, Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel played with one regular offensive lineman. Everything you heard prior to this game is how much Oklahoma didn't have and how much they didn't have offensively. Um, Dillon Gabriel looked pretty goddamn good in a lot of stretches. If I remember correctly, he had almost 250 yards passing. And you think to yourself, God damn, Adam Fuller, how come the reason why I'm pointing this out and the reason why I'm saying this is important is because if you want Florida State to ascend to the upper echelon of college football, you're going to play offenses like this. You're going to play quarterbacks like this. So how confident are you having Mike Norvell. How confident are you having an Adam Fuller leading the defense against those offenses? Because we're going to need those defenses to be good to beat those teams. When the postseason comes, that's the thing about it. You play better teams. You play better teams. You play teams who have better talent. You play teams who are better coached. This is what you're going up against. So do you want to just be able to be in those games? Do you just want to say you're competing in those games, or are you trying to win them? And not only has he gotten better every season, you look at some of the predicaments that Mike Norvell has put him in. When Florida State goes forward on fourth down and they don't get it, you saw it in the Oklahoma game. It's happened throughout the season. A lot of times his defense backs are against the wall because they have been put in not so good situations because Florida State offense couldn't Florida State's offense couldn't convert on fourth downs. You add all that up and you look at everything from a whole, and you're kind of more understanding as it relates to what he had to work with. What makes him look bad is this. We look at Mike Norvell, and he has a juggernaut of an offense, right? Your expectation for the offense is very high based on what they've produced. Your expectation for Mike Norvell isn't that high. You want to know why? Mike Norvell has playmakers on offense. He has a good bit of talent on offense. He's going to have some NFL draft picks on offense. Adam Fuller doesn't have any. That's very few, if he has any. He doesn't have the talent on the defensive side of the ball that Mike Norvell has on the offensive side of the ball. And that makes him look bad to the naked eye. It makes him look bad subconsciously because he's not able to play with what Mike Norvell is able to play with. He just doesn't have the dogs on that side of the ball. So for me personally, it makes me pause when I give out a general assessment on what he can do because he just doesn't have the horses to win that race or even to keep up with the Mike Norvell offense. I want to tell you, and I've been telling y'all, I'm not a fan of his. I don't think he's it. But how fair can I be in saying that, knowing that the person who suffered the most this season was Jammie Robinson? You look at a guy who was preseason All-America. You look at a guy who came in high hopes, hoping to improve his draft stock, and it slipped. It slipped because of how he was used in the first part of the season. So you look at what Florida State did defensively. Jammie Robinson wasn't used in the first half of the season like he was used last season because there were some deficiencies that they needed him to cover up. You couldn't cover on the back end, so they needed him there. There were a lot of question marks at the cornerback position, needed him and Akeem Dent to play back. Well, when Florida State couldn't rush the goddamn passer, whether it be injuries or otherwise, They had to bring him up. He wasn't used like he was commonly used last season. So again, this speaks this speaks volumes to Adam Fuller not having the dogs to win or the horses to win the race. He had to call a defense that at some points he couldn't get to the quarterback. He had to call a defense where at some points they couldn't pass protect them. So not pass protect. They could that the pass coverage was terrible because he doesn't have a lot of talent. I don't know how you grade a person who doesn't have a lot of talent. If you want to grade me, fine, grade me, but at least give me the proper resources I need for you to grade me to the best of my ability, or at least what I'm capable of doing. Um, Part of that story is he sucks at recruiting. So maybe you'd have some dogs on the defense if you recruited better, right? And you seldom hear a recruit say that Adam Fuller is the reason why I'm gonna come to play defense for Florida State. And now they say he does a decent job in the transfer portal. They'll tell you, well, I've heard rather, that he does better recruiting recruits in the transfer portal because he's able to sell something differently. Let me tell y'all something. I don't know what the hell that means. I don't. Either you're a good salesman or you're not. That's pretty much it. I've never heard a salesman say, I can sell this, but I can't sell that. If they're a good salesman, they can sell ice to a fucking Eskimo. They can sell any goddamn thing because they're good at what they do. Well, I don't want to hear shit about him not being able to recruit players out of high school, but he can with guys in college because his pitch is different. I don't give a shit about that. They don't pay you to be good at one thing and not the other, right? So that's another detriment. That's another feather you have to take out of his cap because he doesn't recruit well. So if I'm going to be fair in saying that, hey, Adam Fuller doesn't have the talent to go out there and be properly assessed on what he can and can't do, go out there and get the goddamn talent. Because now you have proof of concept in the sense of Florida State is winning. So and I've had conversations with other people about how they grade this position coach and how they grade that position coach on recruiting, and I've always said, I've been consistent in saying, they had nothing to sell. They had absolutely nothing to sell. Well, now you do. So now I think now is the proper time, and now you can be fair in grading these guys next season because you going out there and you're going to be in primetime games. You're going to be highly recruited. The expectations, not highly recruited, I'm sorry. You're going to be highly ranked. You're going to have a ton of eyes on you. So if you can't recruit and bring top tier guys in here and bring highly sought after guys in here, because right, what you're going to do right now is start competing against the bigger boys. And we're going to have a separate recruiting show, and we're going to talk about the recruits and the transfers once I feel they've wrapped all this shit up. And they're not done in the transfer portal. This is after we've gotten Cypress. I'm telling you, they're not done in the transfer portal. I'm telling you what I know, not what I think. I'm getting off topic, but allow me to reel it back in. If Florida State has a defensive coordinator who can't recruit, how do we expect the defense to get better if we don't get the proper guys in here through recruiting? I don't see how you have one and not the other. But like I was saying previously, you actually have something to put on tape to show these guys now, right? Because a lot of the eyes of the world are going to be on Florida State. I was saying earlier that I believe, like I said, we're going to have a recruiting show once everything is wrapped up. But I think Florida State targeted kids for the most part that they knew they could get, meaning they weren't competing with LSU for a lot of kids in Alabama and Clemson and Georgia, right? I think this season you may see a shift in the focus of what they want. Continue to try to put a fence around Florida, but again, go out and get kids and compete with kids who otherwise you probably would have been able to get this season. So that said, how long do you think people are going to be idle and sit by and watch you under recruit and underperform on the football field? And the reason why I brought up Mike Norvell's success with the offense is if he's lapping you in that regard, people are going to wonder when or if you can catch up. Because who wants a situation at USC where you have a great offensive mind and a lot of firepower on offense and the defense is just a wet paper bag, right? Who wants one of those offenses where you had Chip Kelly at Oregon when they went up against the big boys, they got tossed around? Who wants one of those offenses that puts up 60 points and the defense puts up 65 points or 55 points, right? He's going to have to stay on par with whatever Mike Norvell does offensively because he can't be looked at as the weak link. Because if that's the case, with the expectations being all what they are right now, he won't last next season. Since expectations are changing, either you're going to keep up with this road to us winning championships or you're going to be the reason why we're not, and we're going to have to remove you. So, just wanted to put that out there, guys, something now to chew on. Like I said, I will be back here pretty soon to discuss recruiting. I'm waiting on the transfer portal to end. Don't quite know when that's going to end, but bowl season is about to wrap up, and I've been told of a few names that we need to keep an eye on. So, going to wait to see how all that folds out. Then we'll come back and talk about that. But, man, as always, I appreciate your time. Appreciate everybody who checked on me. Been going through a little something, but I'm back. I'm good. I'm straight. Appreciate all the prayers. As y'all know, you can reach me on the Hot Seat 19 on Twitter. You can reach me at the Hot Seat 19 on Instagram. Haven't been on Instagram for a while, but I'm going to get back on there in a minute. I cannot tell y'all how much I appreciate your time. Happy New Year to everybody. Y'all continue to stay safe out there. You are officially off the hot seat. Y'all be good.